All right. Hello, everyone. Another Kingdoms of War battle report. It's good to be playing Kingdoms of War again. I've been playing some other games, but it's nice to get back into Kings of War. So we're playing the standard 2,300 points. I'm helping my friend Chris. He's going to Samurai Showdown. So link below in the description, and so he's going to be prepping for that. So we do have some samurai special characters. They have some rules. That doesn't take too much into account this game, but yeah, they're basically like a 6 attack. Pretty good hand to hand units. We both have different special abilities, but it doesn't come into play too much this game. I'm also trying out some new units. So he's trying out some new units. I'm trying out some new units. So I'm still waiting on some giant monsters, and I'm looking possibly to expand my chariots. So let's look at my army first. So running my standard pikes with the dragon shark shield. I've got my standard foot guard with hammer. These are kind of my standard units. They're just so good, and I use them so often that they're just solid. 2 units of militia mobs. These are just about all good. Just about any game. A lot of times these 2 units are MVPs. Really love those militia mob regiments. I've got my fanatics with Blood of the Old King. That's pretty much a staple as well in my army. It's just Blood of the Old King is so good on fanatics. Knights with J boots, the other standard in my army. So I'm bringing in a new addition, and that's the Legion of Chariots, and I've given them the Brew of Haste. So Chariots got dropped down to 210. That's a 15 point drop, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to try Chariots out at a Legion, and I like them with the Brew of Haste, a 10 move. So they're really going to be contesting flyers. I've this army, I'm dropping all shooting. So this is a first non-shooting Kingdoms of Men list. I think the only shooting I have is those 10 chariot shots. So this is pretty much an all hand-to-hand army. So I do have that Legion of Chariots. And I've got 2 giants, both with Slayer. Army standard bearer with the loot, some heroes, and the captain that I'm running unmounted. All right. So for his army, he's running some Black Souls. He's got them with the Throwing Mastiff, the Fiery Bulwark, and the Hammer of Measured Force. He's got some 3 Immortals, all with Throwing Mastiffs, and he has the Brew of Strength on them. He's running a Hellfane. He's got the Hellforged Overmaster. So this is the Aura Wild Charge 2. It's really good in his list. He runs kind of an infantry heavy slow list, so it's good to have that Wild Charge 2. And the Hellfane's got a shooting attack. It's just a real good model. He's running an Ironcaster. He's got the Wither and Perish, so it's a weakness that also can do D3 wounds, but close range. So an interesting spell, a little pricey. I don't know. We'll see how it does. And then he's running Shroud of the Saint, so he's got some heal back there. I've played against this army list before of Chris's, and it's really good. It's slow. It's tough. He's got a lot of regen in the list, and he's got that heal as well. He's running the double hex casters like you do, one with Periscope, one with Piercing Arrow. So he's going to be throwing out that weakness a lot. He's got his Overmaster on Winged Halfbreed, so he's got him with Fury. This is another really good addition to the list. His list is really slow, so I do like him adding some speed. I like him with Chalice of Wrath and just regen on this guy too. So he can do work if you can't burst him down, and it is kind of difficult to burst him down. He's got regen and he's got some heal, so. These sorts of lists are definitely the reason that I'm moving away from shooting. I think that with Night Stalkers, with a lot of prevalence of stealth, and there's also just a lot of armies that are tough, high def, and they can really bring a lot of either regen or healing or both. I'm really trying to move away from shooting almost altogether. He's got the formation, so Immortal Guard. He's got the formation has them with Crush 1. He has Throwing Mastiffs on them too, and he's got his Infernox Sacred Horn. It's really good 15-point item on that Infernox, giving them aura melee on infantry. So really good. Crush 2, Nimble Thunderous, Wild Charge. So Infernox is great. So it's a 12 units and 22 unit strength. Mine is 14 units with 26 unit strength. 26, yeah. All right, so let's look at the setup. So just my army. So you've got the militia mobs, you've got the foot guard. I've got my two men-off warjacks for my giants. I'm trying to get those models in. I've got some chariots that I usually use for my beast cab, but I'm expanding them, and so I'm going to try them as chariots with the base and try to add a few more. My knights, fanatics, and then my pikes. So on my characters from left to right, the character that has kind of the cape and hood, that is my samurai. She's got Pathfinder and Regen, so a little more defensive. I've got my standard bearer right next to her with the loot, two mounted heroes, and then I've got Captain running beside them as well. So that's my captain to the far right. All right. So his list. So he's got his two he's got his immortals, so he's running 1, 2, 3. These two mortals are close, but that's two separate units of immortals. Those are the def 5 immortals with the shields, and he's got two of his great weapon immortals back there. Those are the crush 1 def 4 ones. His Hellfang to the right, the Infernox is by them. These little dogs are all his throwing masters. I really like that he's added in just the little dogs. It's a great piece to help us both remember, who is throwing the dogs where. So it's a really good piece to add into his army. It's real nice. So starting with his characters from left to right, he's got his Hexcaster. He then has his Ironcaster. He then kind of the lady with the hammer. That's his samurai. His samurai comes with Vicious and Life Leech 2. And then he's got his second Hexcaster to the far right. So really nasty army. I've played it before. I've definitely lost to it more times than I've won. But I was playing a lot more shooting and that's one of, like I said, this army and others are definitely one of the reasons that I'm moving away from shooting. This army is just so tough, and the region that I can't really shoot something off the board, and I even can't keep wounds on things because most things have regen. He's got healing, or he's got def 6, and those black souls have got the D3 iron resolve. So it's a very good list that's going to go up against shooting lists because it's just very difficult. I do like it. It is slow, but I like the addition of the flyer, and the Infernox does give him that +2 wild charge. So does give him some speed he really does need. Yeah, he's got auras, so many auras. I mean, this is, like I said, it's amazing that this is just a B or C tier army. But I won't. I will digress from. I'll digress from that. So yeah. So here's our setup here. So we're running the scenario we've got 3 loot counters, and they're all in the center. So 1 loot counter is in the direct center of the board, and then 2 loot counters are 12 inches beside them. So on the first half of the board, you can see we got a loot counter right in the forest, and then we've got the other one. And then on the other side of the board, so that's that same loot counter on the top right, that's the center. And then we have this other one here that's kind of right in front of the trees. So just to give you a bird's eye view from a cross section of the board, you can kind of see what's going on. A lot of the terrain we set up, both of us set up kind of center. I think that terrain is not a big deal, just because his shooting, a lot of it's spells, and I have basically no shooting. So yeah, I don't think the terrain from shooting wise, I think it's a lot more about Pathfinder. But yeah, the terrain I would say is pretty balanced this game. All right, so he sets up real tight. He's a real compact list, and this scenario is pretty good for him. When I generally play him in other games, I do like to, when I play like objectives or control, I like to force him to spread out his army because it's so slow. But this is a scenario that he can play really compact because those loot counters are pretty close to each other. So he just plays real compact. And again, those dogs are just for show purposes, just to, so those aren't really there. He's just using those for his mastiffs. So for me, this is pre-captain redeploy. And as we're redeploying, I put one of my giants here, and I also put one of my militia mobs here. The idea being initially is that I'm just going to use so I have a lot of power right here: knights, chariots, giant, and I've got the fanatics and the foot guard. So I've got a lot of power on this side. The real plan is I'm just going to push forward and maybe push this militia mob in to grab this. So yeah. So on the other half, I did early on put a giant here. And then here are my characters. So I just kind of line up my characters. He doesn't have a lot of long range shooting, so I'm perfectly fine just even putting my army standard bearer just right up to the front. It's some good trash drops that I can use. And I do have a lot of power right here. And I put the pikes over here, just being able to keep off that right flank. You could kind of see he has a lot more of his power on the left, well, my left. You know, he's got that Hellfang and he's got that Overmaster. He's also got his big Black Soul squad. So this squad, this flank over here is a little weaker and a little slower as well. So, but you know, whenever we were deploying, I noticed that my giant is really surrounded by infantry, and this is sort of a scenario that I don't want my giant in. So that's just seeing it from a different angle, but I do get 2 on my redeploy. And I basically just switched the giant. So you saw that the giant was here. I switched the giant and those militia mobs. So now I put both of my giants on the other side, where he's got his Hellfang and where he's got his Overmaster. So they're going to be benefiting a lot more from their Slayer D6. And then I put my militia mob here. I think with a hero, and I have some heroes over on this side, and I also have my pikes. I'm really going to just try and clog up that flank and get these, get this militia mob to grab that token. So, all right, and so here's my my giant that I moved over from captain. All right, top of turn 1. So he gets first turn and he just pushes up. You'll see it. He just basically pushes up. He takes some pot shots at my, he does 3 hex damage on my chariots. They are 1921, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, he does a couple of wounds on my chariots, and he does 1 wound on my pikes. So that's just that plink damage coming in from those weakness hex casters. It's so good. Like, feedback on them is so good. And it's a great model that can just, even at turn 1, just already putting in some plink damage in. All right, bottom of turn 1. The first turn is always goes pretty quick. We just kind of push forward. What I do is I push my giants on. I push my giant up. That building is blocking the Hellfang from charging them. Now I do give him a charge from the Overmaster. So I push my cavalry up, and I push my giant up. I also push my fanatics up into the forest. So already kind of putting pressure on that objective with the fanatics. I move up, and then I just move up those around them as well. So just generally pushing up. And let me see here. I'll just go back, try and notate anything. Oh, sorry, I got messed up there. Okay. Another thing you're going to notice here is that I move my samurai up with regen and def 5. Again, just a little bit of a bait. I'm hoping that he'll toss some wounds into the samurai or maybe charge him, and I'll just have that regen just to bounce back. I've got captain. She's kind of tucked in here, so she's going to be providing that rally, and I've got one of my heroes. On the other side, I'm pushing these guys less so. I know he's got a lot of dogs, and these militia mobs, that's a perfect target for those dogs. So I am staying out of 16 right now for them. And I push one of my heroes on the hill. So if I need to charge down, we're going to get a thunderous charge bonus here. So you can see that as well. So I am giving him a few things as a bait. I'm giving my giant as a bait, and I'm also giving my cav as a bait for that Overmaster. If he wants to go in, that's fine. I'm even giving my, as you saw on the other side, that samurai to see if he can do that. So yeah, I shot my chariots and did like 2 wounds to his infantry. That's that wound counter right there. So the shooting is relatively insignificant, but it does here and there a little bit. So top of turn 2. So he's just putting his dogs. It's really nice that he has these dogs. So as he's planning out his turn, he's just putting the dogs where he's planning on shooting. So it's a nice little device for him. So that's him just moving up and him just placing the dogs where he's, going to be shooting, and then going from there. You'll see he kept his flyer back. He was really trying to get his flyer up more forward. He was trying to get it even in front of his infantry, But just with my, having that 10 move and that 20-inch charge on those chariots, he was never really able to get his, he was never able to get that, he was never able to get that flyer up there. I do like those chariots having that 20-inch threat range. It really, again, it forces my opponents who have flyers, especially big flyers like this, to kind of stay back. They can't nearly be that aggressive. Like he isn't able to even go on the flank because I've got my chariots covered, and so he's not. It's very difficult for him to kind of get on the flank of my army because I've just got those chariots there. They're holding back and they've got a 20-inch charge. So he is a little more passive and moving up, and I think he's going to do that, and he's going to throw his dogs and just shoot me. So yeah, that's just another picture of him just moving up. So yeah, he rolls really good, and he does 9 wounds on both. So yeah, this army, especially with those dogs, it has a lot of close range firepower. So he does 9 wounds on both. I was expecting it. Chris rolls pretty hot with me, and so I was planning on that. The whole reason I did that is these 2 units are very offensively, and I'm really just going to use these units to tank a lot of shooting and then charge in there, kill something, and then probably die themselves. Those knights, though, at 9 wounds was a little hot on his part, but it is what it is. All right, so the bottom of turn 2. So I really want those infantry to die. I pop the boots on my cavalry, and I charge also with the giant. I really just need them to die. So just in case my cavalry roll bad, I also just send a giant in there. I push the other giant up. I also move my foot guard up, and I move my foot guard and I grab the objective behind him. So rather than using the militia mob, I just use the foot guard to grab the objective. I also move my chariots on the hill. I think I'd take a pot shot as I think his character and do like 1 wound. My fanatics pop the blood and they charge. And I also send in 2 of my heroes to chaff up. So the one next to the fanatics is the one coming off the hill. So he's got thunder charge 1 in there. And then the other hero is coming in hindered. He's coming from the center. So I run my pikes up to block afterwards. And on this turn, you'll see it on the right here. My militia run up and they grab that objective. So it's actually pretty important that this right hero wounds these. He is hindered, but I do take a chance because if I can wound them, I'm going to grab this objective, and those militia mob are going to start running, and I'm going to have the pikes to kind of hold them off. The captain's in the middle of this. She's just giving her rally out there. So it's a big tempo play. I've played Chris enough to know that I'm not going to defeat him on. I'm not going to defeat Chris on attrition. His army is kind of made for that. So I'm really taking a big scenario play here. I'm throwing 2 units, kind of sacrificing them, and just saying if I can hold them off for a turn or 2, I can grab that objective and get running and basically outpace some of those dwarfs. So that's the plan. I also push up my other militia mob to grab this objective on the next turn. So yeah, and then I send my samurai into his big unit just to chap them up as well. So all right, so my knights, I think I do 27 wounds to him. My giant and my knights, and I double 1s. So that's sucky. So I got a double 1s where I really didn't need it. It's not the worst case scenario, but it does suck. The other thing is that my fanatics flub their rolls. So I pop the blood and I just roll really bad. And I only get like 10 wounds on them, and I get Bane Chant on them. And, it should just be wounding. Now, he did weakness them, but I have Bane Chant. It's 4s and 4s, 30 attacks with elite and vicious. And I get like 9 or 10 wounds on him, and he sticks. So I didn't take out either of those units. So I would say that if that's the nail on the coffin for any chance that I had of like beating this army from attrition is just gone. He's basically has this game on attrition. So I just have to grab the objectives and I have to try to hold him off. So top of turn 3. So he sends his Overmaster into my giant. His Hellfang couldn't fit either. So that building is kind of, it's doing both of us favors. So he just turns around. He's just going to shoot his Hellfang into my chariots. He countercharges the samurai, countercharges the knights. He countercharges the fanatics. The fanatics took about an additional 5 wounds from the blood. So they are at 14 wounds now. Yeah, just countercharges in general. He countercharges both of his heroes, moves his samurai up. And yeah, it's just, I really need those heroes to stick. I do have them in inspiring range from my standard bearer, but yeah, I those heroes really need to stick. So he gets weakness off on the giant, but his shooting is actually pretty weak. His rolls cool down. He doesn't roll great on his regen either, so that's a bit of luck on my part as well. He doesn't actually roll great regens this game, so that is actually a bigger deal in that I am able to deal with his units a little better now that he's not hot on his regen. He gets his weakness on the fanatics, and that's just him doing a couple of wounds on them. He does 1 wound on the Hellfang, on the chariots from the Hellfang. He does 1 wound on the knights from weakness. So luckily for me, some of his dice are cooling down, so he just gets 1 more wound. Yeah, so that's the 2 other wounds he's got on the fanatics. I was going to say he actually moved his samurai back. So the other picture I had, he actually changed it, and he actually has his samurai back there instead. I think he was worried that I was going to charge his samurai and then bulldoze into him. And it's a reasonable thing, the pikes hit on 4s, maybe 5 depending on where he put them, and then it is going to be a bane chant. So yeah, he actually ends up putting his samurai back. Yeah. So for the far right, he does 6 wounds on the hero here, but the hero sticks. So that is really good. I've had a bad roll game so far, but just that hero sticking is really good. He does kill the hero, and then he surges into the fanatics, does more wounds to them, and yeah, he kills them. I have another bit of luck on my part, and in that he surges, he rolls a surge of 6. So he actually does get into the flank of my pikes. So a bit of luck on for me as well is that he surges into the flank of my pikes. Yeah, he kills the samurai. I think he did roll hot here. I think by averages he wasn't supposed to kill him, but yeah, it's just how it works. So yeah, samurai's dead. Did his duty, I guess. Yeah, that's just another picture of the of those guys. They've got a couple of wounds from the hero, and again, he didn't roll great on his regens this turn, so I do still manage to have some of those wounds stick. He rolls really bad. Yeah. So now that unit is devastated, but he does have some elite auras on there, but he still rolls bad and I think he only does 1 wound to my knights. So those knights actually stick. They were devastated. I think he's at 20 wounds now. So those knights do stick. Those knights, aren't exactly a glass hammer. I mean, they're a hammer, but they're actually pretty tough too. So the knights do stick. They're 22-24 with the captain right next to him as well. So yeah, that's good that those knights are still there. Bottom of 3. So the militia, they've had the objective, so now they're going to start trying to run away. I just turned 5 inches and I run. And that's they start running towards the right. I then get the flank on the immortals, and I get the bane chant off as well. So those pikes are going to be they're going to be 60 attacks into the side with bane chant. The other thing I do is I have my center militia mob. They actually move up, and they're going to try to grab this middle objectives as well and see if I can sneak it in. I charge my captain into his immortals. These are the immortals that got wounded from the fanatics. So they actually, again, they didn't roll great regens. So I'm just planning on chaffing them up. But yeah, so captain goes into them. The foot guard turn 180 degrees, and so they're going to start running away the other way. My chariot sidestep, and they're going to also try to protect the center as well. Um, yeah, so the chariots, they shoot. I think they do one, yeah, they do one wound to his hexcaster. I really did want this double charge with the with the giants, but I just couldn't fit in there. So I even tried to sidestep with the knights. I couldn't get it. So what I ended up doing is just turning the giant to face the center objective. And in case he does come in, I'm gonna have my giant there on the flank. So yeah. So so some actual good rolls on my part that I actually didn't like. So this probably was a mistake on my part. I probably shouldn't have charged this unit of immortals. I should have just stood the captain right there, because I actually rolled good on those immortals. He's the captain is hindered. And then I think I rolled like a 9 twice, and I actually kill those immortals. I then back up D3. That really sucks, because now it has that Infernox has a clear shot straight to my militia mob. So it's actually, yeah, it's one of those cases when you roll good, when rolling good is actually bad for you. So I just gave his Infernox a clear charge into my militia, and the militia that have the center objective as well. So the flank attack is enough to kill the immortals. They had like 2 wounds on them from the previous hero, so I do kill them. I turn them, I pivot them to face. I didn't take it in this picture here, but yeah, they turn to face. The knights do kill the immortals, and it's just in time to take a charge from that Black Soul regiment. But I'm hoping that those knights have kept them at bay long enough, because I'm just going to make a 10 move run with my foot guard. So the giant trades with the dragon, but that dragon does have regen, and he's getting healed from the overmaster. So I'm not going to win attrition games. All right. I forgot to take the pick, but yeah, that's the pikes just turning and just facing his infantry. Like I said, it was a big deal that my hero wounded those immortals again on the top right. So not only did the hero was unwavering, the hero wounded them again. So again, it's just really making those immortals stay in place. They can't pivot over, and they can't start going after my militia mob. They're stuck there. So top of 4. So yeah, he sends in his Black Souls into my knights. He continues to fight my giant with his overmaster on winged halfbreed, sends his Infernox into my militia mob. So yeah, it's just general charges. He also turns his Hellfang to face the center objective here, so he's going to try and provide some support in the center. He then charges my he kills the hero, and then he makes the overrun to hit my pikes. He does like maybe like 2 or 3 wounds. It's not bad. He also moves his samurai into the forest, but his samurai doesn't have Pathfinder, so I feel I can actually run away for a few turns from that samurai. My militia mob have got a good head start on him. Yeah. So he does waver the militia mob, but they do stick. So they've got 6 wounds on them, but it's very good that they did stick. And the main thing is that like I feel I can maybe squeak by with the left and the right objectives, but if I can just cause him to devote more resources to this center objective, it's less resources he's using to contest the left and right. So it's really good that they stick in that end, because I don't think I could kill that Infernox. So I have one more turn that Infernox does not have the objective. So he actually rolls really bad on him attacking my knights. I think he ends up getting like 3 or 4 wounds. So the knights actually stick. That was an 8 twice for him. He doesn't even waver them. And so I would have had headstrong, but yeah, I wasn't expecting them to stick. So those knights, even though they double wand on turn 2, are still just doing great. That's really great for me, because I've got those foot guard that aren't going to have those Abyssal Dwarves chasing them. So it's great that those knights do stick. He killed the giant. He's not rolling great for his regions. Again, I've seen the second turn that he's just not rolling great. He does get some heals from his Iron Caster, so he's at like 7 wounds now. And but at the end of the day, I'm not trying to kill his models. I'm trying to hold him off. So I've got the giant there to knock that half breed overmaster flyer back to the ground. All right, bottom of 4. So I go into his Black Souls. They've gotten a couple of wounds here and there from the samurai and from some shooting. So they've like 3 or 4 wounds on him. I'm really hoping to just get a good spike on rolls. Now I know that he tried to weakness those knights and he failed. So those knights are wounding on 5s. And I'm going to try to get a Bane Chant off to get them down to 4s. So I'd love to get a spiky roll and to just waver these guys. And then you don't see it, but yeah, my foot guard, they're not here anymore. They run 10 inches in the other direction. So I actually spent a lot of time right here with this militia mob. And you'll see that I've moved one of them and I've placed the objective here. I've really tried to, again, I'm probably going to lose this objective, but I just want to make it as annoying as possible for him to grab it. So what I actually do is I drop the objective on this full corner of the militia mob where they were, and then they just back up 3.5 inches. That takes them outside of the 10-inch charge from these immortals, and it just forces this Infernox to that he even if he kills them, he's not going to automatically grab that objective. It's one more turn that Infernox they are also on the objective, so the Infernox can't grab it. So it's just another delay tactic. It's another tactic that just says, I know I'm going to lose this objective, but I'm just going to slow you down as much as possible. Another mistake I think I did, in hindsight's 2020, but I really didn't need to go back into these immortals. I probably should have just withdrew because I didn't see this, but yeah, he does have a flank. He caught me on this. He's got a flank with his Hellfane, but I actually just counterattacked, which I shouldn't have. I've got the Dragon Shard shield. I didn't need to do it. I really could have just withdrew, popped the Dragon Shard shield. I probably wouldn't have been in his flank, or maybe I just don't pop it and just continue to go back. But I really, so that's a mistake on my part. I really should have just popped the Dragon Shard shield or just moved back and stay out of his flank. So he does get me, because he does get me into a flank, because I don't, I should have known better. I'm not going to kill these immortals with these guys. And I had to burn my Bane Chant onto the knights, of which I fail anyway. So I tried to Bane Chant the knights, fails anyway. So, but the other thing I do is it's off screen, but I do run my militia mob 10 inches. So they're way off on the far right, just getting a good head. So I do feel that militia mob, it's not guaranteed I'll have that objective, but they're running. Yeah, I do some wounds to his infantry, but they stick, and they Iron Resolve D3. I do some wounds to his Overmaster on Winged Half-Breed, but they stick. And I think I actually waver him, but he's got Fury, which is a really good thing to put on him. So yeah, he's fine. Top of 5. So yeah, he gets that flank into my pikes. That's definitely my first real mistake this game. I should have been paying attention, and I should have checked that flank. So, but he does get the flank on my pikes. They're probably dead. He goes back into my militia mob. They're probably dead too. And he goes into my knights. They're also probably dead. So yeah, I think, like I said, I've held him off, but I think he's breaking through my lines now. That's just an overview. Again, I feel pretty comfortable with the foot guard at the objective. So this is the one objective I'm going to feel pretty comfortable about grabbing. Even if he breaks through, I still got my chariots here. So they're at 5 wounds now. I think he shot the Hellfane, or he did another weakness on them, so that he did weakness this round, so that they're at 5 wounds now. That just, that weakness, Hexcaster weakness, is just, it's a great thing, just to attrition damage. Yeah, so pikes get murdered. Unsurprising there. The knights are gone too. And then also my militia mob are gone, but he can't grab the objective. I think he would have had to have rolled a certain one. And if he did roll it, he was going to get flanked with those chariots. And he knew that I had the shenanigans to just grab my captain or grab that standard bearer. And I certainly could have positioned them so that the chariots wouldn't have to go into the woods. So those chariots actually stop him from probably grabbing the objective. So it's just one more turn that he can't grab that objective. Yeah, and even if he got weakness off on them, it's still Thunderous 3, and I can Bane Chant them as well. So those chariots are definitely doing a job in that they're forcing him not to be a little more aggressive with that objective. So yeah. Yeah, so this is just them fighting the giant. I think, yeah, and this is the samurai. So the samurai moves outside of the forest he can run now. He's got a move of 6, but my militia mob have a good handle on him. He does turn his immortals to phase. I don't know if it really matters. I mean, those immortals aren't going to catch my militia mob. But yeah, bottom of 5. So I just move 5 more inches and I turn here. So he's going to hit me on turn 7, right? Because he can't reach me next time. So so the captain just moves up and just blocks. So they get the CS2. This is here. So the captain just moves up in the forest, stops me from getting hindered, and I do get the CS Thunderous Charge 2 on him. He's only got 13 nerve. Maybe I can get a spike roll and kill him, but it is unlikely. So the other thing I did is that I could have tried to Bane Chant the chariots, but I really think that center is just gone. So instead of having my standard bearer like stay in the center and Bane Chant, I just actually run the standard bearer towards my militia mob. I ran through the calculations with a tape measure, and he's going to get, if he gets a turn 7, he will get 1 turn to hit these militia mob. And if he rolls a spiky nerve roll, I've lost this objective. So what I do is I just run, I run my standard bearer to get within the 9-inch bubble of inspiring here. The foot guard on the other far right, far left also turn left. They just turn around and face. So yeah, those militia mob are a 14 nerve, but he rolls really good. And if they're not inspired, 1 spiky nerve roll and they're gone. So my giant actually kills his flyer, and I just turn to face. The Infernox sticks, so I don't roll great. I mean, that's a def 6 Infernox, so he sticks, but I do some wounds on him. Doesn't matter. I mean, these chariots are toast. Top of turn 6. Yeah, he charges with the Infernox. That's just he moves his Black Souls up, trying to get out of the forest. Yeah, the Hellfang charges the giant. The giant's already taken some wounds as well. So and yeah, so that's him. Weakness is on the foot guard. He puts weakness on the foot guard, does a couple of wounds. He puts weakness on the giant, but he doesn't wound him. Sure. Minor things. He does kill the giant with the Hellfang. So I didn't have inspiring there either. So he rolls enough, gets a spiky nerve roll and kills the giant. He runs his samurai up here, right? So this is what we were talking about, where he's going to get 1 turn and he's hoping for turn 6. Oh, the other thing is to point out here is that he does do some wounds on the chariots with the Infernox, but they do stick. So that's here. So the Infernox, I think, does like 3 wounds on him, and those chariots do stick. So let's just keep that in mind. All right, so bottom of turn 6. So yeah, that's just the 3 wounds that the Infernox did. The chariots just countercharge back in. I mean, the chariots are going to be dead. They're going to get flanked. They get charged by 3 or 4 different units. Yeah. The captain kind of stands there as chaff. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the chariots are toast. Yeah, the foot guard sidestep, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he can't get his Black Souls in, so he can't see over the hill. So he rolls, and there is a turn 7. So I'm gonna have to survive 1 more turn of this. So he still has a good chance on winning. He goes ahead and just multi-charges the chariots. They're toast. He charges with his Hellfang. This is the other thing. Maybe he can get a good spiky roll with the Hellfang. They are 21, 23, but they're not inspired. So if he can spike a roll, he can take out those foot guards. So he has a chance on winning. And then he charges his samurai into my militia mob. But I did get within 9 inches, so I feel pretty comfortable they're going to stick. So yeah, the chariots are toast. He just pivots onto the objective. So he does have one objective now. All he needs to do is get one more objective. He rolls decent. He gets 7 wounds. He has brutal, makes it 10, but 21, 23. He can't kill them. So he doesn't even waver them. It doesn't really matter. So the foot guard sticks. So it really comes down to his samurai on that militia mob. And he hits 5 out of 6 times, but he rolls a 7, so he does waver them, but they stick. Ooh. So end of game, most of my army is destroyed, but it is a 2-1 victory for the Kingdoms of Men, whatever is left of them. So just some post-game pictures. You can see I really just have I think 3 units left. My foot guard are on their last leg. We didn't roll out the captain, but he could have easily killed the captain too. And then there's my militia. So you can see a lot of my army is gone, but I did hold off just long enough to get those 2 objectives. It was a real close game. All right, so learning points. So yeah, I really do like Chariot Legions. Their shooting is decent. It can force a nerve check. It's got steady aim. I wish sometimes I could drop the shooting and get them a little cheaper, but I'll take the shooting. Like I said, it can come in handy. I love them with the Brew of Haste. Just giving them a 10-inch move just to contest fire is great. So they're also pretty beefy at 1921. They're a horde with the captain at 2022. They hit decently, so they hit a lot. So it's like comparing them to the Beast Cav. They're faster than Beast Cav. They've got a little shooting. They've got higher nerve, but they don't hit as hard as the Beast Cav. So 20 attacks on 4s with Thunderous 2 and no Vicious. The Beast Cav definitely hit harder than them, but they're also just that Beast Cav are only 15, 17. So you can easily put 7 or 8 wounds and waver them. Yeah, I could put Indomitable Resolve, but it's just 10. It makes them 10 points more expensive. Where I may start running Chariot Legions because that 1921 is nice. I thought the Giants with the redeploy is great. So, yeah, I run them with cleavers, and so that can make them a little bit of a one-trick pony. But just like in that last game, if I have a giant that gets stuck with a lot of infantry, I can just always captain him where all the big large infantry is. I think as well that Kings of War right now, there is definitely a monstrous infantry cav meta. So I still feel very comfortable, going the double slayer on the giants. So the other thing, I think my list has a lot of wounds. I don't have any sort of regen or heal, but the list is just a lot of wounds to get through. I also have a lot of burst damage. So I can burst down things. But I still have to focus on the scenario. I'm an army, as you can see, even with Chris's army, he can out attrition me. And another thing I have to go back to, the militia mobs continue to be the MVP. If you're playing Kingdoms of Men and you're not running militia mobs regiments, I would just highly advise that you try them out. They are so good for 65 points and having that 11, 14 nerve. If you're a Kingdoms of Men player, you should be running militia mobs. They're just too good. And they're my MVPs this game. They just snuck in there. They just grabbed those objectives. They were annoying, they're great also for contesting. The unit strength 2 is also, it beats out a lot of these giants and monsters. And, so unit strength 2 is also a way to beat out those kind of things. Yeah. So great game. Thanks for watching. You can always play me on Universal Battles. I'm always looking for feedback, subscribe, comment. And join the Austin Kings of War Facebook group. And I think Samurai Showdown, I probably won't be able to go to Samurai Showdown, but I really want to. But yeah, it's a really good GT. So Samurai Showdown as well. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time.